Hi, I'm Dr. Gary Myszkowski, and welcome to video 3 of a 6-part video series entitled How to Select an Executive Coach Who is Right for You. This video focuses on your readiness to engage in the coaching process. Once we establish your presenting need and consider the implications of the culture you are performing in, the essential question that follows is, are you ready to fully engage in the coaching process? On the positive side, are you ready to try on new behaviors and approaches that may take some time to master, but will improve your effectiveness and the breadth and depth of business issues you can influence? Are you ready to stretch outside of your comfort zone to accomplish new things? Are you ready to experience that inevitable awkward stage where your new behavior has some rough edges, which is apparent to you and everyone else who sees it? Are you ready to accept feedback that may conflict with how you see yourself, your idealized self-image? Or are you immediately defensive when you are presented with uncomplimentary feedback? In some skill or behavioral areas, others may perceive you as being more effective than you see yourself. In other areas, you may think you walk on water, and the other people who interact with you perceive you as at least being up to your waist, and hopefully not drowning. What's the worst case scenario? Getting bad news about you that is upsetting. Keep in mind that this happens in a small number of coaching cases. So how does one handle this when it does occur? Let's look at one example of a senior executive who received some unexpected negative feedback, initially reacted defensively to it, but ultimately changed as a result of the feedback and benefited from it. A CFO received very negative feedback about how he treated his direct reports. He was described as a steamroller who never looks back to see if the roadkill is still twitching. This CFO described his journey to finally accepting the feedback this way. It's a bit like the process of death and dying. First, you are in denial. People who perceive and declare your weaknesses must be wrong, and you create a laundry list of reasons and rationalizations to prove them wrong. Then there is anger. After all I have done for them, how could they treat me this way? Then there is bargaining. If I made some minor changes, maybe that would affect how they see me and correct some of their misperceptions. I'm still essentially okay, and otherwise only need to engage in some minor changes. Next, there is depression. It really is a side of me that I'm ashamed of. I am overly harsh with others, and I really don't understand why. And then there is acceptance. The CFO said to himself, everyone has blind spots and in some cases personal demons. If I don't control these and improve my interpersonal skills, they will never select me as the CEO. I am committed to doing whatever I have to, no matter how difficult, to change. Achieving acceptance required 6 coaching sessions after the CFO received his feedback and began implementing his development plan. A few years after being intensely self-aware and self-correcting, the board of directors selected him as the new CEO. After serving successfully as CEO for the typical CEO lifespan, he retired in good graces with a successful legacy. The typical experience of most executive coachees is much more balanced and positive. Most participants in 360-degree feedback report about 70% of what they understand from the feedback is consistent with a realistic balanced view they have of themselves, warts and all. Another 10 to 15% of the feedback they view with some skepticism, whether it's positive or negative feedback, having to think about the possible special situations when they might behave a certain way without dismissing it. Another 5 to 10% is a blind spot, something others clearly see, but the executive does not perceive in him or herself. Another small percentage of the feedback is not easily understood and does not align with any of the other information we have about the typical behavior of the executive. So the last portion is set aside and often dismissed as unintelligible. The most common aha that participants express is, "I kind of knew that was an issue. I just didn't realize how strongly people felt about it." Executives who are open to learning new facets or aspects of themselves find the coaching process is an opportunity to peel back a few layers of the onion and discover new strengths as well as new vulnerabilities that need to be accommodated for or addressed, both contributing to greater flexibility, adaptability, and success. Most business people assume that the little boy who shouted out that the emperor had no clothes quietly disappeared shortly thereafter. It is safer if the messenger is a potentially disposable external third party, such as an executive coach. Are you willing to carve out the time to fully engage in the coaching sessions and make the attempts at performing new behaviors in between sessions? This is a matter of commitment and involvement. You will have many competing demands on your time, and this issue is analogous to joining a health club. Lots of people join, especially after a New Year's resolution, and few show up on a regular basis after January. No professional coach will ask you to turn yourself inside out or try to change you into someone you are not. So most of the changes you will be attempting, in most cases, will be incremental and require practice until they become almost automatic. You will need to be willing to carve out the time to both participate fully in the coaching sessions on a regular basis, as well as pursue opportunities to try new behaviors, influence tactics, and other new approaches in between sessions. As you learn to try to become more self-aware and self-correcting, you will miss opportunities to substitute new, more effective behaviors. So learning and change will tend to be more incremental and progressive. But you have to have the mental and emotional energy to apply these changes in the midst of performing your role. If you have too many professional or personal demands on your time to the point where you are feeling almost overwhelmed, supportive coaching might be helpful, but it might not be the right time for becoming involved in a more systematic developmental coaching process. This should be discussed up front with your coach and with your sponsor. Assessing your involvement and availability will help set more realistic expectations about what kind of progress you can reasonably achieve. You and the coach should be monitoring progress on a regular basis. Also, your sponsor and HR partner will be interested in whether you are making progress and whether there is an apparent return on this investment. So, are you ready to face the headwinds of some potentially unflattering feedback? Are you prepared to have your strengths, as perceived by important others, confirmed? Are you prepared to carve out the time from the competing demands on your schedule to become emotionally invested in the development process? Are you willing to go through the awkward stages of not having perfected or mastered new behaviors immediately? On a more positive note, are you ready to achieve new levels of effective performance that you probably could not achieve or achieve as quickly without some expert facilitation? If you are ready, let's determine how to identify the characteristics of an executive coach who is right for you. Please select Video 4 now.